Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Daniel Umstead, host of the RNG radio show. I'm just having amazing guest after guest come on to the show. But, before we get into the questions, I got to run through the bio. As a multiple award-winning full-service accounting firm, Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services offers highly customized financial solutions specifically designed to take your business to the next level and beyond. Utilizing cutting-edge accounting techniques and drawing on a wealth of industry-specific experience, the firm is your trusted partner for enhanced business growth, increased automation and efficiency, and a truly class-leading customer experience. The mission is to provide all the clients with truly visionary accounting and bookkeeping services that not only increase profits, but saves times and ultimately stimulates growth. The firm typically works with service-based business, but their current client list, of course, extends far beyond that. And who do I have on my show? None other than the owner and founder of Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services, Margo Masri. Margo, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so excited for today. How's it going?
It is going well for Friday. I'm kind of glad the heat wave out here in Philadelphia has calmed down a little bit, but still, I'm actually kind of looking forward to the fall weather already. So, um, before we get started into the thicker weeds of questions, your thriving bookkeeping and accounting firm that is based out of New York. Can you tell me a little bit about it and how you got started in the business?
So it started when I was small, and I always was taught that money was hard. And I grew up with parents that I saw that they always had this hardworking mentality. And it was always shown to me that to make money, to do well, you had to, again, everything was about hard and doing more and more and more. But it always seemed to pull apart people, and I never liked that. And there was this, I talk about this story, so whoever follows me may have heard it before. There was this jacket I wanted when I was small, and I asked my dad for it. And at first, it was like a clear no. And then one day, it was my lucky day, and he told me, "We're going to go to the store, we're going to get it." So I thought, wow, I'm going to be with the cool kids. I'm getting this jacket. Wow, like I can go to the other side of the street, the right side of the lunch table, all those crazy thoughts when you are smaller. So at first, when we were there, like when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's like there, I can feel it and taste it. And when we got to the register, something happened between him and the lady that it seemed like I wasn't going to get it. And then the look on his face was like was really like concerning. And as a little girl, I was like 6 at the time. I might have been 5. And like all of a sudden I just started to like dip. The lady did something with whatever my dad had, and then I got the jacket. And inside I was like, that hard that I saw on his face, I never wanted that again for him or for anybody else. So there my journey began. And then later dialed on, I always got these crazy opportunities around money, business, accounting, and tax that just led the firm to where it is today.
And how long has Heartfelt been around for?
So technically, Heartfelt is 3 years. We rebranded from Margo's Bookkeeping, which is around a total of 20 years. We rebranded to Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services because we are a full service accounting firm. Before, when we began, it was just bookkeeping, and clients are asking for more. They wanted accounting, they wanted CFO, they wanted tax returns, like the whole gamut. So, with following the client journey, after a while, the branding was just so off from the actual services that we were doing, where we came up with the new name. And it really helped. It really helped because clients got the full service of what they were looking for. And now more and more clients are joining, which is so exciting.
Oh, beautiful. And not so much as far as going the transition from Margo to Heartfelt. Currently, though, what type of services do you offer to businesses?
So we offer full service, so it could be bookkeeping, accounting, and tax, and we meet our entrepreneur where they're at. So what does that mean? Sometimes you can be a seasoned entrepreneur and you need just tax returns. Sometimes you need modified tax returns. Sometimes you need several years of bookkeeping. Sometimes you need business advice, which is CFO services. So we meet you where you're at, and then we help you along that client journey to develop a good wealth development plan, increase profit, increase cash flow, and consistent growth so that you could continue to encourage yourselves and the team around the dreams and making things possible.
I love that. And you mentioned cash flow. I do want to point out to that, but going even back to the initial part, as far as meeting the entrepreneurs where they are, for most entrepreneurs, they should, have that sales forecast. What is the best way, to present this kind of information?
So generally with clients, what happens is when we meet them, they're in some type of Excel file and they're doing formulas, they're doing some manual spreadsheets and whatnot. And believe it or not, there's some seasoned entrepreneurs that are even still doing pen and paper with the green ledgers. So
Catch up with the times, ladies and gentlemen, if y'all are listening and hearing. Please, please.
that's how
Google
I
is free, at least Google Sheets.
I'll tell you no joke. I mean, we just onboarded somebody and he was using it. And I said to him, I'm like, just to humor me, can you send me a picture? Because I really thought he was just trying to like humor me, but it was true. He had his pen, he had the green ledger, and it to him, it worked. However, he was missing a whole heap more that really helped change the game for him. So how is the best way to do this? So the best way is to be in an accounting program that is known. Lots of times companies have accounting programs that are custom made that really can mess them up. And I'll tell you why. The person who made them doesn't even understand it. And then the training for the team becomes far more difficult because there's an expectation from the owner to the accountant to make happen that they really don't even understand the expectations and they're hoping that the developer actually made it. If you go to programs that are out there like QuickBooks or Peachtree, stuff that's been out there that you can find someone, you're more likely to have consistency that if something happens that you need to change along the journey, it's easy. And the program is set up in a way that it supports you versus you needing to support yourself. There's guidance to lead you. And this is where is a huge, huge issue for a lot of people in the DIY circle is that they feel they have the control, but it's the control that is only what they know. And what they don't know is really where they need to go. And the consistency of cash flow and profit or increased profits, because maybe you are making a profit, is on the other side of letting something guide you, which could be scary. Sometimes it's scary for people to be led because they feel like they lose control. In our firm, we partner with you. We want you to have the skills so that you feel that you're in control and there's no sense of losing that control. We're working on your behalf and with you to make sure it's kind of like the silent cheerleading squad behind the scenes.
I love that. And with the accounting programs, like let's say somebody is, even maybe brand new to QuickBooks or Peachtree, do you walk them through as far as along that, as far as how they should learn the system and how it should apply to their business?
Of course. So somebody who onboards in my company, we have specific onboarding directions that guide you through the whole entire process. So if you didn't have a file, we have a step-by-step instructions document that leads you towards the goal. And if something happens, we're always available for phone calls to hop on. But our instructions even have pictures that it guides you what to do so that we can continue on our end. It says what's the client's end and what's our end in terms of the company. And from there, the journey begins. Our onboarding just becomes really, really clear where it says what to do and the how. And I don't use fancy apps in terms of like, to send us the documents. We really just use Google Drive. Most people know how to do it. You click upload. It's not installing another app. 11 out of 10 people have Google, and then for the 1% that possibly want Dropbox, the shift, we already have that on our onboarding too, so that there's no questions. Because when it comes to tech, people shut down. And unfortunately, at first, it is important for that teamwork so that you can be onboarded well.
Awesome, awesome. Margo, I'm just hearing customer support, customer support, customer support, which is
Yeah.
definitely needed now in the world of, digital and AI. So I'm thankful, that your company is able to do that, at that level. Prior to moving forward with any other questions, how can folks get in contact with you or learn more about you, whether it be on social media or if you have a website?
Totally. So I hang out on LinkedIn almost every day, except for the weekends I'm with my children. So my profile is Margo Masri. You could also find me on Facebook, Margo Masri, and then the website is Margo Masri as well. We did it pretty consistent. And if you remember our business name, I would be so grateful. The website is Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services.com.
And the "and" is just
The
AND,
word,
correct?
the word,
Okay.
yeah.
All
I
right, cool.
wanted the and sign, but it wasn't available.
Thieves, I swear. So earlier in the interview, when we were talking, you had mentioned cash flow. It's already a hard predictor as it is, especially, somebody who might be in real estate, with interest rates fluctuating, or maybe somebody has that great idea, but, the demand's not there and they're trying to balance out that supply and demand. With cash flow, what do you suggest as far as the best way to tackle that?
So, cash flow, the best way to tackle it is to understand what is already happening in your company to make educated guesses for going forward. Lots of times people think the past is done so that there's no need to review it. But what happens is numbers tell a story, and the story tells where your business is going or not going. So the foundational component in this area is really having bookkeeping in place, because you can look through your history at any point and look at the history and to be able to map what happened and didn't. So let's say you're a real estate agent, for instance, and your job depends upon how many deals you pull in for the year. You will have an average. You will have a certain amount of deals that you're doing per year. So, with that in mind, is aware of a guesstimate or an average of where you can predict your money. Now, let's say it's a company and professional service based where you have recurring income. Recurring income is something dependable. One-off items is not dependable because it depends upon how good your sales team is. So depending on where you are. Now, in terms of real estate, let's say you have rentals coming in, you have tenants that are dependable and not dependable, and then you have the in-betweens where you wish they were dependable. Let's just call it that. So, right. So, depending on the category that they fill, is really what your cash flow is. Most people don't look at cash flow, they just hope. And then if the bank goes negative, they're like, oh my God, I don't understand how that happened. And all sorts of creative, reactionary parts come out of them. Now, these days, when you are in a professional field in the entrepreneurial world, that really does not fly. You really need to understand when your money comes in. For instance, if all your money hits on the 10th, and your bills are going out on the 1st, it's not going to work unless you have a heavy cash balance, which a lot of people these days don't keep a lot of money in their bank account. If they do, it's about to go out somewhere. So it's a timing thing. So cash flow is the type of thing when you look at the history. Now, even if you know your numbers, you may not know what to do with your numbers. Maybe if you know what to do with your numbers, you don't know what to do to implement. That's where I suggest advisory services so that you can see what those numbers is telling you in terms of the story and not telling you, because those are your clues and your keys to your next steps. And I want to say that again. Looking at what didn't happen versus what happened is your clues and your keys to your next step. It's not your marketing director or your marketing operations manager or any of those types of people telling you what to do next. It's looking at what didn't happen from the budget or from the business plan that you had. Now, we've been working a lot lately in the mental health industry, and what I noticed is that none of them have a business plan. And without the business plan, they basically dial forward very quickly and then they dial down quicker. Why do they dial down? Because it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall and they don't understand why clients are de-escalating out of the process. So wherever you are on the journey, having a plan versus guesstimating and guessing or throwing spaghetti against the wall is the key to cash flow, is the key to consistency, because without that, you're just hoping or you're in a hobby these days.
So, 1000%. And even with the cash flow, and we had mentioned real estate, with the tenants that you have pointed out, expenses come about, especially if you're in Philly or New York, yay, snow. So, snow shoveling services, come a part of it, and you had those hiccups. With business expenses, though, how detailed should, that business owner be? And, what kind of categories should they put stuff in? Because especially somebody being brand new to, category on their expenses, they might say like, oh, my travel includes everything from me going to checking on properties, me meeting up with folks, and maybe slipping in sometimes me, meeting up with clients, for meetings and such outside of that. To your expertise, though, what is the best way that one can categorize their business expenses and how detailed should they be?
I love this question. Most people detail it for the tax return, which are very broad categories. Now, as that helps us for the tax return, there's that gap for the day-to-day to really help you operate. Now, I always tell my clients, detail it that it helps you operate the business, because the tax return doesn't help you operate the business. It helps you with a filing requirement that is by the IRS. So as detailed as you need to be to run the business is as detailed as the chart of accounts should be. Now, you could have categories. You can have an auto category. You can have an office category. You can have a vendor category for the different areas, outside services, payroll, all of these different things. I mean, I can go on, but sometimes it's not necessary, like let's say meals, right? You can lump those together. But things that help you run the business, that's important, especially marketing, payroll. Payroll is out there, rent, if you have different offices. Now, a big thing in this area that people don't do that I really want to share is that if you have multiple offices and you're not tracking expenses by office, chances are that is where your growth is going to be. It's not making more sales. It's not growing the business. It's actually stopping that and seeing what you're spending per office. I see it in real estate. I see it in mental health and across multiple professions that people have multiple offices and then they don't want the work or the time. You could even see like closed American Express statements. It's like it breaks my heart because those are your tax deductions. Those are your ways to reduce your taxes and you're standing in your own way. So let's get out of the way so you could reduce taxes. And that's an easy door to get into cash flow.
No, awesome. And I really, really appreciate that. Which leads to, that profit and loss statement. For the audience that may be brand new to it, can you just describe what that profit and loss statement is?
Yes. So in order to run a business, there's main financial statements that help you understand what's going on. So the typical main one is called a profit and loss, which is exactly the words of what it means. Tells your profit or if you lost money. Now, at the top of our financial statement is the income. That's the top line, what we made before we spend anything. Why is it important? We want to know if we're growing. We want to know if we're not growing. Under your income is where the expenses happen, which is what we just talked about. The importance to understanding your own financial statements is really another key to growth. When you understand your own financial statements, just open it up. if your accountant gave it to you and it's getting dusty, or you didn't open it, you didn't get the password or whatever it is, you couldn't open up the PDF or whatever it is, or going into QuickBooks, open it up. If you're listening to this, I'm here coaching you, rooting you on from New York and saying, you got this and you can do it. Once you look at the expenses, you may be like just surprised by what's there or what's not there. And then at the end, it's how much money you made. Now, knowing if the P&L, which is the shorter version of profit and loss, is correct, is how updated the information is. You may see your bookkeeping is behind. You may see that it's right on target, or maybe your expenses are off, meaning that they're not categorized well. This is where only the business owner can do it. The problem I see all the time is that business owners just want to outsource and do it for you, which is a lot of the job. But without teaming together on the expenses, it's going to be really, really difficult. I actually want to say a story on this that
Absolutely,
will.
please.
So a client of ours, she was saying how her previous accountant, she just got an email, and she had to clarify where these vendors were and what they were doing and all of these things, because they had two first names. So it confused the person. And she's in design. And she was saying how she had to clarify that they weren't people, it was companies that were doing things, and it was going to be frequent flyer people. And I said to her, did they ever use Google to put it in before they asked you? That's not a great use of time asking the owner if you could just put it in Google. Like we said before, Google is free, and seeing what you could come up with. So if your accountant is asking you a lot of questions that they could solve in Google by looking up what it is, you just want to think of how hard that they're working for you, or they got your back. And these little things, believe it or not, they do matter, because the categorization, again, is the key to your bottom line of how much you pay in taxes. All of this can be updated, all of these processes can be tweaked, but the importance of this information as a CFO, as a seasoned CFO for 20 years, I really want you all to have out there so that your businesses can grow and have the types of results you're looking for.
I love that. And, thank you even, just for that insight. As somebody who maybe, just starting off, or maybe they're a few years in and realize like, oh, I have not been doing this. But now they're realizing like, hey, I need to get into it. General rule of thumb, as far as for personal, is typically, assessing maybe between 1 to 2 months, your budget and your personal expenses. As a business owner, though, since more things require more detail, how often should a business owner be, peeking in and checking on the processes as it relates, to the profit and loss statement?
I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say weekly. And depending on how big the operation is, some people, I tell them to spend 10 minutes a day and looking in your QuickBooks file. If you have somebody working on things, it's not a lot to ask of you. Yes, life is busy. Yes, business is busy. And we all have a lot of calls. But when you get stuck and busy, that means you're losing money instead of doing the right intention of the right actions each day. So if you looked at it at least once a week, or when you have the meeting with the person who's handling it, show the right intention, show the right intention too, and attention, listening, asking questions, so that when you have to make a decision, you have the right information at your fingertips.
Love that. Thank you so much for that insight. Fun word of the day, break even analysis. Can you
Ooh.
describe what that is to our audience?
So break even is really exactly what it is I'm actually going to say this through a story. So I was actually just on a business trip this week, and my son was talking about some hikes and ups and downs that he's going through in his business. He does cybersecurity, and he's doing one of these big events. And we were talking about the money outlay and stuff. And I was actually explaining to him around the break even, around how many clients he needs to bring in order to break even from it. So whatever the cost is, we back end into that total cost, which is the end game. So in his case, let's say, or I'll make it up, but let's say it's $5,000. We back end into that to know what we need to not lose money that day when we're spending on something. In business, this is why categorization is important. This is why understanding your profit and loss statement so that you do know what your break even numbers are to stay afloat and not to lose numbers. Because then it becomes into, I don't like this saying, but I've never come up with a better one, taking from Peter to pay Paul and those types of things. You want to avoid that. And when you don't have those types of analyses of what you know, then those types of things start to creep in.
And with, a break even analysis, my understanding is there's three parts to it: the fixed costs, variable costs, and selling price, right?
So fixed is something that you can't change, and the variable is something that can. So that's where it gets hard, the variable cost, because it could be a range. So let's say it can be 8 to 12%. So you always want to go on the high side so that you're prepared. And if you go on the low side, you just have to be prepared that you might be out of the prepared stage and into a way that you're not going to be at a break even at all. Now, I just want to tell you something. When you go through these numbers in terms of break even and you start to panic around that, that's where you know you're not getting enough support on these things. It's good to start doing them yourselves as a business owner, but what's more important is that someone leads you so that you're going to the garden and you're not staying in the mud. Because when you start to look at the steady costs versus the variable costs and those types of things, you start to panic and then you feel like your business is going under. Everything could be tweaked. The difference is, like we were talking about before, information leaves clues. Clues are your keys to your next steps. I cannot say it enough. Clues and keys to your next steps. It's not anything else by what happened and what didn't happen. So now your business can prosper. Because think about it, like how I started my business is not where I am today. I started off to do just bookkeeping, and now we're full-fledged. I called it heartfelt is because I truly have for each and every single one of our clients, heartfelt intentions, and I act from the heart. I don't act from my textbook knowledge of college. I have live experiences of where they're all family, and it's who we are, and it's a culture that we have in our business as well, because if we're not acting on your behalf, well, then it's just not going to work.
Awesome, I love it. And being heartfelt, I really appreciate that, because a lot of folks are just, focused on the profit and loss when they are running a business. It's like, hey, what am I gaining out of it? What do the numbers look like? What metrics need to change in order to gain that profit? And either dismissing the loss in itself or just targeting it, on it solely. You yourself, you're actually, giving that compassion, giving that customer support. So thank you for that. With that being said, what outside of robbing Peter to pay Paul, what other exclusive and impactful advice can you give to somebody who is getting started up and creating those accurate financial reports, and whether somebody who may be tech savvy and they know how to Google the information, or somebody who's like, this is my first time opening up a website. So what advice can you give to somebody on that level who's coming in entry level?
Honestly, it's doing a business plan. It's not guessing. It's not taking information from like a lunch date. It's creating a business plan. You can go on my LinkedIn profile and you can trudge through my my blogs. And if you email me, I can show you which blog it is. If I coach you through it, it's a little bit different. It's a different service that we have, but there's a version of my blogs on LinkedIn where you could get a business plan, and that's where you should begin. The technology and all of those other things are more dialed in based on where you're going. What's important is to have a plan for your business and not just see the way it goes. See if you're going to make money. You want to know your ideal client. You want to know where your ideal client is hanging out. You want to know what their pain points, their fears, their desires, what they're really looking for. So to just guess those things and go without a plan. How much money do you want to make? I want to make a lot of money, is like what
Right.
most people say. but a lot of money. You could say, do you want to make like your first 5,000, 10,000? So take the same thing with the break even. Let's say it's 5,000. Use that as your goal and work backwards of what you need to do to get there to create the steps. Making money is that simple. It's 5,000 and break down those steps. Don't change your goal, just change the steps. Because like I keep telling you, clues and keys to your next steps is looking at your numbers.
I love that. And I talk a lot about, that mindset and having folks, stay motivated. But what you spoke on clearly outlines, your affirmations, your business plan is your affirmations. This is what you're seeking. This is what you're hoping for. With that being said, not everybody's going to have those sunny days. I talked about the heat wave right now. So even though the sun is outside, it still feels like, the desert. During those dark, and ugly days, what advice can you give to, business owners, to continue to push forward, with their business and grow?
Take a break, but don't change your goal. Don't quit. Don't go into victim mode. Take a break and have built-in breaks. Don't look at retirement as the time when you get to rest or when you get to go to Florida. Build the breaks in every day. And I'll tell you, this week I was away at Miami at an event and it was for 2 days. The beginning of the week I was in New Jersey for something else. Anytime I go away, I have business breakthroughs of things that come out. Even if it's just a change of location where you work outside, you go to the park if we can't afford flights yet or whatnot. But take a break because burnout is a real thing. And I could tell you when I experienced it and I knew it was happening, it took me a long time to come back. Thankfully, I have a great team that was able to hold things up while I needed more time off. And what I could say is that what I learned from it is that when your company grows, you need even more breaks. You need to triple down and double down on things to take care of your own well-being. Like what you think is working, you need even more when you're growing. And when you have those nerves, just talk to the nerves and be like, you got this. Quiet the mind. It's really, really important. I do meditation every day. Sometimes it's a few times a day when I have a lot of client sessions or if I'm in development mode or I'm on a lot of podcasts and things. You want to quiet the mind to really hear within with what you want to do and let that lead you and not your ego. When you don't know what's happening inside versus the ego, it becomes really, really difficult. When you believe in yourself and you trust in yourself, that's the key. So when it gets hard and you feel like you're doubting yourself, take a break because nothing will happen in burnout. Nothing will happen in the hard stage. What will happen is a chargeback or a client leaving or a fight with somebody or you said something that you want to take back. And that's not what we want. So when you feel it coming, take a step back. That's the graceful thing to do. It's not to push forward. All those people who are talking about pushing forward, ask them what happens when they push. Anything that's force will just take you back 50 steps. When you don't have in those built-in rests and those built-in times to sleep well, eat well, all of those things that people talk about, it just builds up on you. 12-hour days, 20-hour days. I did that when I first started, and where it led me to hours and hours in the bed. And then I was losing in the bigger game instead of creating a balance. And again, reach out for help. And that's the graceful thing to do because it's going to lead you faster to where you want to go.
Margo, gem after gem after gem. I'm inspired because in personal stuff, folks, I set deadlines for myself as far as like, okay, December 2024, plan to get this done. March 2025, I'll get this done. And even stuff that I've done in the past, that I've written down. And unfortunately, if it didn't come to fruition, I'm like, oh my gosh, digging myself back in that hole. But you just gave, the key and clue to those next steps, in your life where it's like, hey, if you're feeling like you're at the top and everything's being pulled in 20 million different directions, take that break. We've definitely gotten far from the days of, the 15, 30, and 15. Because I remember working in retail, and it's like, hey, if you worked 8 hours, you get a 15-minute break during this time frame, 30 minutes for your lunch, and another 15. Because we're adults now, it's like, oh, I got to keep pushing through. Or I had enough coffee today. I could bust through the 12 hours. And to your point, as you specifically pointed out, it's like you're doing more worse for yourself by pushing out those 12-hour days, especially when there's no objective or purpose. You're just running that mill, spinning that mill. Maybe you're trying to think of ideas, and instead of just maybe taking that meditation, that 10 to 15 minutes a day, refreshing, resetting your mind, because to your point, you're not going to win anything at 2:30 in the morning. I don't think anybody has ever said like, oh man, I finished the PowerPoint presentation at 3 a.m. and I
Right.
was able to get a $2 million deal from it. No, no. If anything, you probably burned yourself out more to where you possibly did poorly in the presentation. So, um,
Master each step. Master each thing you're doing instead of going wide, instead of going narrow. I just want to share one quick story on this. You know,
absolutely.
years ago, my colorist, he called me and not he called, someone called me while I was doing my hair. And I call her my house help. And I don't like those housekeeper words, maids, all of those things. I just find them just inappropriate. So I hang up the phone and he goes, "Oh, is that your assistant?" And I was like, "What?" And like the way he explained it, I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting." So we talked about multitasking, and he goes, "How would you feel if I, as a colorist, was eating my salad at the same time?" So I'm coloring your hair, and then he goes, all of a sudden, he goes, bloop, like he goes, then the salad is
Top
on
fell up.
your
Hey,
hair.
let me get that for you.
Yeah, he's like, how would you feel? You wouldn't feel good about that because you came to get your hair colored. So when you're doing 50,000 things and you're stretched, that's where migraines happen and health and all of these things. So master one thing and then go to the next and it builds on each other. I could tell you what I accomplish in 2 hours when I'm rested, I end up needing like 5 hours to take care of. So trust yourself and take those breaks and master it before you keep pounding and pounding the pavement.
Gentlemen, if y'all didn't get nothing out of this, I definitely did. So, Margo, thank you so much for that. Prior to us talking on the show, you had mentioned a special gift for the audience. Could you go into detail about that?
Yeah, so I have an ebook I want to share. It's on maximizing deductions. And on maximizing deductions, it's really going to be your clue to everything. If it's okay, I have two gifts I want to give out.
Yes, yes, of course, because I was just told about the one. So, bonus gift, ladies and gentlemen. And no, you don't need to call 1-888 or 1-800 number in order to get it. So,
No,
thank you, Margo. Yeah.
you just need to, with the link, just sign up. It's called a bookkeeping starter kit. Now, bookkeeping is usually for people on a dark, hairy day or a gloomy day. So what I did is that I put you the 9 foundations of what we use, and I give you a guide. Please use it, is what I can say. And if you have a question, please hit reply and ask so that I can help you and that you're not in the dark.
Love that. Margo, before I let you go today, and I can't thank you enough, not only, for the insight on accounting and someone getting started or maybe even restarted. Any other parting words of advice or anything else that you would like to leave with the audience today?
Have fun. Have fun. Have fun with your work. Love what you do. For fun, I do a lot of yoga. I'm a lot of Pilates. I swim. I hang out with my children. I cook. I do poetry. I do a lot of education, further development. I do a lot of reading. Have fun. Treat yourself like a queen or a king, whichever gender that you are, because that's how other people are going to treat you. So, like, if you're out there and you're tired and groggy and angry or whatever those things, take care of you. If you don't think you deserve it, other people are going to give that back to you. So, the energy you put out is the energy you're going to get as well. It goes both ways. So, if you're angry and you think life is hard, remember the story I told you about the jacket. If you believe in it, you're going to get it. So, take care of you and show up how you want others to show up also. If you're showing up Raggedy Ann and you're wondering why clients are not showing up well or a team is not producing, the more you put out there and give to the world, the more you're going to get back. And the little bit each day, it builds on each other. You got this.
Margo, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Definitely looking forward to having you come back on.
Thank you again.
Thank you for tuning in to the RNG Radio Show. Be sure to like and subscribe for more episodes and future content. If you'd like to learn more, visit us at danielumstead.com. Stay blessed, my fellow millionaires.